Hey guys, Bowie here, and today we're about to shed light on the strongest hero in the patch, at least according to the stats. And yes, this hero has more win rate than Alchemist. Mirana is probably the hero with the highest amount of very small buffs over time in the last year. Several small changes that when added together allowed Mirana to be one of the strongest heroes in the patch, at least pub-wise. This hero thrives with exactly what we are seeing here, an offlaner that can stun. There is no hero that can stand his ground against this combination in the early stages, and thus, you already start the game collecting an extra bounty rune. See how the Mirana is out of vision, so that maybe you can bait someone in and then the stun into arrow will kill them. In this game, Dire understands the strength of this duo, and while they don't show, so they don't die, the fact that they are not scouting the area allows Qupe to wrap around mid, and if he landed this arrow, the results could be disastrous for the meeple. This angle is way more effective than going from the river or the sides because of the way meeple's camera is going to be positioned. Another great benefit of roaming Mirana is Basilius being so strong. As a hero with decent attack range, attack speed, and in need of mana regen, the item fits like a glove, and it's what most pros are building. All you need is to farm one large camp around side shop, and you will have your Basilius ready from the side shop, also helping your offlaner. In this Kingr game, we can see exactly why Mirana is the strongest roamer of this patch, no questions asked. Not only he can block the small camp, but he does that in a spot where he can already check where the rune is, and even without the Invis rune, he will be able to set up in that tree area and shoot it. Look at Qupe's camera, it's almost impossible to react to this just because of how you usually play the game. Even though Radiant picks an Abaddon to deal with the humongous amount of lockdown Ogre plus Mirana offers, as long as they go on Abba himself, it's really hard for anyone to do anything or help. With Mirana, any guaranteed stun is almost always a kill in this stage. Being good at playing Mirana is all about understanding vision and how vision makes us play different. If you watch the last replay, you can see that the enemy dodges the arrow because the support gave vision for display. But in this play, when you don't have vision of a threat, you just play different and you have vices and straightforward patterns that anyone can abuse. Look how Rodjer waits for the Phoenix and Void to be in the low ground here to hit an arrow on the Ogre. For the Ogre, he's just harassing an Abaddon, but the end result is an arrow that deals 220 damage, stuns for 5 seconds, allowing the heroes with the least kill potential possible, an Abaddon and a Wyvern, to get first blood, even though the Wyvern didn't get the Q and instead learns W from the get-go. Another really good part of support Mirana is that regardless of lane configuration, it's really easy to obtain your level 2 by killing a large camp. You also hinder the ability of your enemy to pull because the creeps are not gonna really destroy the entire camp, whilst using very few resources. If that wasn't enough, this hero not only can threaten the mid lane from both Radiant or Dire, but as long as you go for it being level 2, you can also kill the courier if it shows up before the 3-minute mark. And that's what Rodjer does here. You can see a similar example at the 5-minute run. Mirana messes with all your basic instincts when playing the game, and the effect of the arrows is really powerful if you know how to abuse vision and predict your opponents. Sand King is another great lane partner for Mirana since it allows for great arrow follow-ups, and here we can see Cr1t and his offlaner destroying a lane with two pretty durable heroes, Ogre and Bounty Hunter. EGM playing Mirana here shows exactly what we saw with some ganks in the mid lane. By using this tree area, you give no chance for the enemy to react to a 5-second stun that deals 220 damage at level 1. Alk gets lucky, but Chen dies, and that's first blood for his offlaner right from the get-go. A minute later, EGM is middle, and note how Klinks has no creeps to CS, so all he cares about is harassing the Terrorblade moving forward and backwards, and by shooting the arrow in the middle of that range, he gets another arrow and a kill. The ability this hero has to set up kills is unprecedented. And what most people get wrong about Mirana still is trying to build right-click Mirana as a support. For this hero to have impact in the mid and late game fights, all she has to do is press R and or land an arrow after a stun gets used. On top of that, you have 3 escapes, making you really hard to kill. Right-click Mirana relies on using Leap to do damage, and if you're using Leap aggressively in fights, you're probably going to die a lot, you're going to be too close for your arrows to be any effective. And the reason this hero is so good at the moment is that arrow now gets reduced cooldown with more points of the spell, and you get a level 15 talent with -5 seconds of that arrow. This makes you really effective in fights. As you can see, the build 99% of the time is maxing leap after everything else, with only one value point of it that you pick at level 2. Watch the Mirana trying to kill this Legion. He holds onto the arrow because Legion from that angle has more than enough time to react, but when the Ogre lands his stun, he can follow up with the level 2 arrow, and that's a kill. As long as you have one stun in your team, you will always be incredibly deadly. Your cooldowns are super low, and every time you use them, you potentially have 985 damage that you can output on a 15-second cooldown that can also stun people. It's just really crazy. In this game, we can see exactly why the Sacred Arrow talent is insane. Thanks to the center initiation, they burst Qupe, and because they are under the guise of Moonlight Shadow, Mirana has another arrow because of the arrow cooldown talent. They take the gyrocopter and they just kill 2 of the most important cores in Radiant, just like that. Qupe is forced to buy back, and just because of milliseconds, she survives when the Balance Strike tries to set up another arrow. Even though most players are maxing arrow instead of leap, we can see Rodjer doing the exact opposite in this game. They have a lot of gap closers on the dire side, and Radiant lacks low cooldown follow-ups for the arrow. Note that even though he maxes leap, this is not an excuse to play right-click Mirana. He buys Spirit Vessel into 4-step this game. It's all about trying to survive. He dies a lot in this game, even though he tried to itemize against what Dire had, but thanks to good arrows, Moonlight Shadow, and great itemization, they are able to win this game as well. Another great thing about going Basilius early on is that you can either keep it for mana regen, since the hero is quite mana hungry, but you can also disassemble the item to build Urn, which is an awesome item on a hero that is all about setting up kills like Mirana. On top of that, watch Cr1t play this fight. He's not throwing random arrows during crazy fights. He's always waiting for the stun that allows him to follow up afterwards. I mean, he does throw arrows sometimes, but only if he knows no one else can stun or no one else has vision. So, you know, you don't want to trade a sure kill for a very small chance of hitting an arrow. In this game, EGM opted again for the Solar Crest. Not only all of the Dire cores deal only physical damage, but having it against Legion is always good. This is another game we see Leap being maxed in for good reason. Heroes like Clinks and Legion are really annoying, and with Leap having too big of a cooldown, you might die a lot in fights when you only have like 1 or 2 charges of the spell. At least against those heroes. Also, if you think about it, Radiant has pretty much no stuns. EGM cannot follow up his arrow with much of what they have, meaning this is one of those perfect games to deviate from the normal build. In this push at the 27-minute mark, look how the Double provides EGM the distance to avoid burning army and later Clank survive. Oh, it's also worth noting that EGM gets the second point in arrow earlier on, but only then he maxes leap. There's a lot of value in the second point of arrow once Starstorm is maxed, because the raw damage of the arrow doubles with the second point. Guys, thank you very much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. Give me some feedback on this video. I just realized that no one actually cared about Alchemist. I thought that everyone just, would love to get free MMR of the year, but very few people watched the last video, and it took a long time to make. So, I'm making a video about Mirana because I also think she's broken and maybe people care more about this hero, I don't know. If you want this channel to be a little bit more sustainable, make sure to check my Patreon rewards. I'm also coaching. And, follow me on social media. It helps a lot with getting invites from tournaments and stuff. That's it. Thank you very much. And have a good day, guys.